Today we're going to be looking at how to replace the drum brakes on a Honda Accord LX. This one's a 2.4 liter Vtec. Obviously you take off the tire, make sure everything's nice and secure. Then after that I just found some bolts that fit the holes there on the drums. They do sell special kits for everything that we're doing today, but I don't have those special kits, and this is the way I do it at home. Make sure you find some that fit. Basically what this does, you turn them and it's going to be pushing the drum outward. Okay, so you turn them clockwise and then it'll slowly start opening. And I just got a hammer and just hit it a few times. Make sure there was nothing stuck on them. A lot of brake dust came out on the bottom. But basically you just keep turning, and then it slowly starts to open. Alright, so now that you have the drum out, this is what it looks like on the inside. You got some pins holding things in place that you basically have to remove. You also have a little knob there that opens and closes the brakes. And you have a spring down there as well. Basically you remove all those. This is where I started at. I removed this pin. After that was removed, I proceeded to remove these other locking pins. Basically you just push them in, then you turn them, and then they slide right out through the groove. So you do that on both sides. There's one on one side and there's one on the other side. And then we're going to take off the bottom spring there. Sorry, I decided to take off the other spring on top. So I turned the wheel, that way it can close somewhat, and it'll be a little bit easier to take that off. So then you take that other piece out. Then there's a spring that connects the two, a larger spring that connects the two brakes. So I'm turning the knob there, that way it closes the two brakes or makes them closer together, and the springs don't have much tension, or it reduces the tension of the springs. So I popped off the bottom spring first. And then I was adjusting the knob, that way the brakes are or the spring has less tension in it. And then I popped off the spring off one side of the brake. They do sell tools to make this a lot easier. I didn't have them, so this is how I did it. It was popping off or out a little bit on the top, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I put it back on. Okay, so I got that one off. And then there's another spring holding that together, and that was pretty simple. You just pull on it and it comes out of the groove. So that's how it was on there. So here we got the new brakes, and two of them are identical, and then the other two are also identical. Okay, there I'm showing how it goes. I basically put them side by side and made sure it was the right one. And then the other one has that little like pin sticking out. Okay, so you want to make sure you put the right one or the correct one on the correct side. Okay, so that one goes in there. That pin comes in from the back and goes in through the hole there. Okay, so then I just set everything back in place the way it was. I already got the locking pin on the other side or on the other pad. So I put the back larger spring in place, so it's already in place there, and then I'm just basically putting everything back together. So I set that one there, and it is a little bit or the pads were spread a little bit too far apart, so I'm gonna adjust it by turning that knob there. So you adjust it and it opens and closes the brake pads. You can see I already got the spring in on the back, the larger spring there on both sides. So I just kept on adjusting it, and then I put that spring back in place. So it has a hole down there. Put the back spring on also. So there I attached the spring, and I'm turning the knob, and everything looks good. Then I put the bottom spring in also, and then you're ready to put it back in place. So one thing I did have to do, it wouldn't go back in, so I did have to adjust the knob to make sure it was wide enough or narrow enough for the drum to go back in. Here I'm showing where the bleeding valve is at on the drum brakes on this Honda. It's in the back, so that's where the bleeding valve is at. So I did bleed the brakes, and that's pretty much it. It did require a little bit of time, but overall it's possible to do it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.